So good morning to everyone present here. Welcome to our webinar on getting started with C# 6 and Entity Framework 7. I'm Mukta Ashok and I'll be a moderator for today's webinar. Now, as we begin, I want to take you through a few indicators so that we can interact better during the webinar. What you're looking at is the attendee interface of GoToWebinar. As you can see, there is also a viewer window on the left. This window will show you everything that we will be sharing from our screen. You also have an access to a control panel, which is on the right-hand side from where you can type in queries and share your comments. Now we'll be reviewing your questions as they come in and we'll take them up towards the end during the question and answer session. Also, the webinar is being recorded and everyone will receive an email with a link to view a recording of today's event. Now to begin with, I would like to introduce you to our company, Suyati Technologies. Suyati provides marketing technology and integration services for companies that wish to combine the best of breed solutions and create a unified approach to customer acquisition. We enable system integration between various CMS and CRM platforms and a slew of e-commerce, marketing automation, social media listening, email, and social marketing. Now, Suyati's custom technology solutions have been deployed in companies in the US, Western Europe, and Australia, and have helped many enterprises leverage the web, cloud, mobile technologies to acquire customers through integrated digital marketing. We have a strategic partnership with various technological giants such as Salesforce, Symphony, and MongoDB. We are also a Microsoft certified gold partner, and so it is based out in Chicago with product engineering capability out of the US and India. Now, speaking about ASP.NET, Suyati Technologies has a wide-ranging expertise in ASP.NET and has developed umpteen number of web applications with complex workflows for the publishing industry. Now, in addition, Suyati's certified product engineers have developed two remarkable products on the ASP.NET MVC framework. And our extensive experience also includes working in the most advanced automation scenarios. Now, I'm proud to present you our speakers for the day, Jitu NP and Dhanasri Vishwanathan. Jitu is a Microsoft certified solution developer at Suyati Technologies, and she works on technologies like ASP.NET, MVC, Web API, jQuery, HTML5, and WCF. Her hobbies include traveling and cooking. Now, Dhanasri is also a Microsoft certified solution developer, and they work on the similar technologies, and her interest lies in painting and sports. Dhanasri also loves running marathons. So you can use the hashtags and handles to post questions, follow us, or even tag us. Now that's all from my end. Now I will pass it over to Jitu, who will walk you very quickly through the agenda of the day.
Thank you, Mukta. Hi all, myself Jitu. I will start with the agenda today. First, we will look into new features of C# version 6. Following that, we will be talking about the Entity Framework version 7 and its new features. After that, we will demonstrate a sample program with C# 6 and Entity Framework. Finally, we will conclude with a QA session. As we know, C# is an elegant and typeset object-oriented language that enables developers to build a variety of secure and robust applications that run on the .NET network. And C# has first stable version from version 1 to version 5, and the latest version 6 is released on April 3rd, 2014, and it's released with Visual Studio version 2015. The C# new version 6 have a lots of features, that is auto property initializer, get only auto properties, name of expressions, exception filters, null conditional operators using static, awaiting catch and find blocks, string interpolation, dictionary initializers, expression body numbers, parameterless constructors in structure, extension add methods in collection initializer. Now I am going to explain all the features in detail. First, I will start with auto property initializer. The auto property initializer allows us to define the property without any backing field. However, we still need to use constructors to initialize these auto properties to a non-default value. In the past, we may have created our properties with a get and set, then initialized our constructor with the value. But we can now reduce this code block to one line. No longer do we need to create a setter or constructor. Like this example shown in the screen, here we can see an employee class with a property name and it's assigning with a string value at the time of initialization. And next feature is caption only order properties. It is a new concept to set the value of a property during a property declaration. Here we can set the default value of a read-only property. It means the properties can be made read-only by removing the setter access. Here we can see the example. There is a class called employee and there is a property name and here we only use the get property and we are initializing a string value with the name. Next feature is name of expressions. The name of is a new keyword in C# 6 and it lets you grab the name of the variable you are working with. It's very useful from a developer's point of view because when we need to use a property, function or a data member name into a message as a string, so we need to use the name as a hard-coded in the name in string. And in the future, my property or method's name will be changed. So, it must change all the messages in every form, every place. So, it's very complicated to remember that how many number of times you already use the name of them in your project code files. And this avoids having hard-coded strings to be specified in our code, as well as avoids explicit use of reflection to get the names. Here we have a class employee and it has three member variables. And we need to show the values of this class property and also if we need to print the name of property to with the message. So in C# 6 we can use the name of expression rather than hard-coded the name of the property. Next feature is null conditional operators. This operator checks for a null value before invoking any member. This will let you invoke or access the members only if the variable is not null. It is very beneficial for a developer in a source code file that we want to compare an object or reference data type with the null operator. So we need to write multiple lines of code to combine the objects in previous versions of C# 5. But in C# 6, we can write an inline null condition with the null coalescing operator. In this example, if we want to call the to-do function from this C class, we would need to check if the instances are not null until you get there. Like in main function, here we are checking null variables from the A class property and from the B class property and then C class property. So, with all unconditional operators, we can simplify like this. Next feature is exception filters. An exception filter is a feature already present in Visual Basic and F#. Microsoft now introduced this feature in C# 6 for developers to use in their code. Exception filters allow you to specify a conditional clause for each catch block. To use exception filters, we need to declare them in the same line as where the catch block is declared. Just like this example, we can see here I am used exception filters in catch and final blocks. Next feature is everything catch and finally blocks. In C# 5, we can easily use try catch and finally blocks together, but got unable to use async and await and catch with the finally blocks. Here in C# 6, we can use await statements and async methods with catch and finally blocks without writing any complicated code. The compiler will handle this automatically. Here in this example, this is just a demo example. Here we can see a write function we are used for do something in the catch and find blocks. Next feature is using static. This is a new concept in C# 6 that allows us to import static members of types directly into scope. And that is very useful for every developer in that code file, where we need to call the static methods from a static class. As we know, a static class cannot be instantiated. When using a static number, to access any static number, we need to repeat the class name. For example, console is a static class and readLine, WriteLine, readKey and clear are the methods of the console class. So, we need to write the class name first, then the method name every time in C# file. But in the case of C# 6, however, Microsoft announced a new behavior to our CS compiler that allows us to call the static methods from the static class without the name of the classes, because we need to first use our static class name in the starting with all the namespaces. Here in this example we can see and use the system.console console word first and then call the WriteLine member without calling the console dot. Next feature is dictionary initializers. Many C# developers felt the format as seen on the screen confusing for creating dictionaries, mainly because of the use of brackets and quotation marks for the data. As we know, a dictionary takes two parameters, one for key and the other for value. It should be defined at the time of initialization. In this code snippet, we will see initialize a simple dictionary with an int and string as data types. The Microsoft compiler team decided to change this and make it more readable with the following format. This new format will only save a few keystrokes, but it is much easier to read. Here in this example, we can see I am assigning the student 1, student 2, student 3 examples strings to the 01, 02, 03 keys. Next feature is string interpolation. String interpolation is another cool feature that helps you to manage string formatting easily. During the development period, formatting the string values are very common. Why this is common? But it may lead to errors because every time we need to specify the placeholder for each type and then map them with the object values. String interpolation lets you format strings in an easier manner that is regularly used to show the various records to the user. Earlier we either use the plus symbol or the string.format method to format and organize various strings that now become the old way to do string concatenation. String interpolation replaces the need for string.format by using escape curly braces inside the strings. Here in this example, we can see I used name and price variables inside the curly braces for getting the value. Next feature is expression body members. This feature simplifies the syntactic expression in C# program. The main advantage of using the expression body members is to reduce the source code by creating the expression bodies for the function, method, and the property. Since we are already familiar with lambda expressions, the expression body members extend the similar use of lambda expressions for the method, functions, or properties. Sometimes we create functions with not more than 3 or 4 lines of code for performing an activity like printing or conversion. Using expression bodies, we can reduce the number of lines of source code without using any curly braces. But now we can use lambda arrow instead of all the curly braces. That is just like a new formatting tool. Next feature is parameterless constructors in structure. In the older version of C Sharp, the structure or struct types were unable to support parameterless constructors explicitly. Using the new operator invoked this constructor and all members of the struct were assigned default values. Here in C Sharp 6, we can explicitly define a parameterless constructor for a struct, giving non-default values to the members of the struct. Next feature, extension and methods in collection initializers. When we first implemented collection initializers in C Sharp, the add method that it called could make extension methods. VB have this feature from the start, but C Sharp don't have this property. Now this fixed, the code generated from a collection initializer will now call an extension method called add. Collection initializer should consider add extension methods as well as the built-in ones, which would allow custom code like this. As of C Sharp 6, collection initializers have changed so that an appropriate add extension method is also permitted. Here this code has got var1 equal to new list string. It's also working fine because it's used like the extension add methods. Next we will explain about new features of Entity Framework 7. For that, I will hand over this session to my colleague Dhanasri.
Thank you, Jeetu. Hi all, I am Dhanasri here. Now I am going to explain about the new features of Unity Framework version 7. We all know it is lightweight and extensible version of Unity Framework. New platform targeted with Unity Framework 7 like Windows Phone and Windows Store. Of course, it is supporting ASP.NET 5 also. The core of Unity Framework is now supported in Mac and Linux. Historically, Unity Framework 7 is supporting relational databases, but now it also supports non-relational databases. I will start off with the main features of Unity Framework version 7. The first feature of Unity Framework version 7 is support for Windows Phone, Windows Store applications, and Linux and Macintosh platforms. Entity Framework is popular data access choice for traditional client and server applications that target the full .NET framework. This includes applications built with technologies such as WPF, WinForms, and ASP.NET. Entity Framework 7 will work on all of these platforms as well as Mono on both Mac and Linux. For Windows Phone and Windows Stores, the initial goal is to provide local data access using Entity Framework. SQLite is the most common databases of choice on devices and will be our primary story for local data with Entity Framework 7. The full provider model will be available though, so other data store can be supported also. While parts of Entity Framework are clearly tied to relational data stores, much of the functionality that Entity Framework provides is applicable to many non-relational data stores too. Examples of such functionality includes change tracking, link queue, and unit of work. In Entity Framework 7, we will be enabling providers that target non-relational data sources such as Azure Table Storage. Then moving on, the next slide is lightweight and extensible. Entity Framework 7 with more features and flexibility and enhanced performance. Another major change will be the code first only approach. Here all models in Entity Framework 7 will be represented in the code. We will be able to reverse engineering a model from the underlying database. Code-based modeling is preferred as it is less repetitive and easier to use and manage. We will be keeping the same patterns and concepts that we are used in the Entity Framework, except where there is a compelling reason to change them. You will see the same DB context or DB set based API, but it will be built over building block components that are easy to replace or extend as needed. The same patterns we have used for some of the isolated components we have added in recent Entity Framework releases. Then moving on to the next slide, enhances support for unit testing. Unit testing allows you to test blocks or units of source code. Unit testing is similar with Entity Framework 7. Why? Because when writing the unit test, we can still use of familiar DB context or object context classes. Most importantly, we are not constrained to have an actual database. Our unit test would be executed against the in-memory database. Effort is an easy to use and powerful unit testing tool for application that uses Entity Framework. It's actually an edu.net provider that comes with some helper methods that enable us to execute the CRUD operation on lightweight in-memory database for faster execution. And the final one is support for non-relational data stores and in-memory data. NoSQL databases are widely popular these days, primarily because of performance. CRUD operations on these databases are faster compared to their relational counterparts. NoSQL databases are good choice when you have to work with a large volume of data, particularly useful in statistical or real-time analysis of data. Entity Framework 7 now provides support for non-relational databases as well. The support for NoSQL in Entity Framework 7 is great. Interestingly, for querying and updating data in non-relational databases, you can use the same approach you are familiar with. Most of the providers we are using in Entity Framework 7 like SQL Server, SQLite, Redis, and in-memory. The in-memory is especially for unit testing, whether using in the Entity Framework 7. Now I will show a sample program to demonstrate C#6 with the Entity Framework 7. And here will be building a console application that uses the Entity Framework and that uses the Entity Framework. So we will start with Visual Studio 2015. Here we are using the community version here. So we'll start 2015. Okay. We will start with new project. Taking under Visual C# template, the control application package is selected and giving the name as base and press OK. It's loading. Okay. So this is our main program. If you want to remove the unnecessary uses, you can remove from here. You see, this is the remove unnecessary using option. This is newly our ASP.NET file. You click here, you see the unnecessary using is removed from here. To the right hand side of the solution explorer, you see there is a reference is there. When exploring the reference, you see some built-in items are there, but there is no package for Entity Framework 7. First of all, we need to install the Entity Framework package. I already copied this. I will copy this. I am copying here. I will install this package with the help of Package Manager console. Okay. From to take tools, then go to Indicate Package Manager, then you go to Package Manager console. Okay, I will zoom this. You see, this is our Package Manager console. Here I paste that command and I will execute it. You see, there is a restoring option is there. The restoring option may indicate that the install package complete very fast and quickly. At the same time, the package installation will happen occurring in the background. That is benefit of ASP.NET 5. Okay. In the case of Entity Framework 7, we need to provide some migration also. So, in order to get the migration, the new migration commands are contained in Entity Framework.command package. So, we need to install the another package also. So, I will take it. This is that command. I will copy it and I will also paste in the package manage console. And you see, again there is a restoring is there. That restoring represents the package is installed in the reference. So in this case, all the package for the entity framework is already set up. So now move on to the project JSON file. You see, this is our project JSON file. This is only in ASP.NET file. Here we can represent our version, description, and dependencies and commands and framework, everything. So in the case of Entity Framework version 7, we need to do some migrations. I already told that. So for that purpose, we need to add some additional commands in this section. You see, this is the section to add some commands. So I need to add the additional command here. I add it as what in EF. If you call the value I copy from here, you see, entity framework command, entity framework dot command is here. And I paste here and I save it. Okay. So the next step is to create our model. So right click on the project, add, then go to new item. From here, we can select the class. And here I am name it as for our purpose. I name it as sample DB context and add it. You see, this is the DB context of our program. But I have to create one another class also with the name employee. Public class employee. Okay. And also we have to add some properties in this class. So this is a easy method to create the property. So the first property is ID, and the second property is second property, and the second property is first name. The property is first name. Okay. The last property is would be string. The last property is last name. So our class is ready with us. So in the case of Entity Framework 7, we use only core first approach we use. So in order to do the core first approach, then we have to inherit the DB context class. So we have to inherit the DB context class here. DB context. But you see there is an error case here. That's not a problem. You take the quick action. And you see there is namespaces here using Microsoft.data.entity. You have to add that. Now the problem is resolved. Okay. In the case of code first approach, the class can be considered as a table, and each property in the class representing as the field, and each object in the class representing as the row. Okay. So we need to create the table. First of all, we have to access the DB class. That is inherited from the DB context class. So we have to access the DB context class, DB set class, and I call our employee class here. Okay, I name it as employees. Okay, this DB set is used to create the tables and also perform the code operations on this table. Okay. Then next move on in the case of Entity Framework 7, there is a method called onConfiguring method. In the case of Entity Framework 7, we can override the onConfiguring method. The purpose of onConfigure method is to initialize the connection with the database. Whether the database is local or SQL, or whether it is assured data storage, whatever it is, we can connect with entity framework that corresponding database with the help of onConfiguring method. So we have to write that public. So no, sorry, it's not public, so it's protected. Okay, then override, then void, then all configure. Okay, there's options here, entity option builder, and object builder. Okay, so builder dot use SQL server. You see, this method expecting some connection string. You can provide the connection string for the local DB or the SQL server. In the case of mine, I use the local connection string here. So I am copying it and I paste it here. Okay. So our connection is ready. So here I am using the local DB for us. Okay. Then the next step is to override the own model config, own model create. Okay. Public. Okay. Second protected. Override own model. Model creating. It's all there and option is there. Model builder. Model builder is there. Okay. Okay. Something else is happening. Okay, I got I missed that voice symbol. Sorry, self-number. Okay. The all model creating method is used to configure our model. Okay. The main purpose is that configure our model without modifying our entity class. Suppose if you want to change the property first name, okay, this first name, then we know to change. Then there is no need to change the class employee. I will show you an example. Model builder dot entity of employee. This is our class of property. Here I select the property with the help of lambda expression. Here I am selecting the property as first name here and dot required. This is indicating that the first name is must be required in our databases. Okay. The main purpose is that if you want to change the property first name, in the normal in the as in the earlier cases, we need to change the particular property in the entity class. In the case employee. In the case of entity framework 7, there is no need to change this entity class like employee. You need to change the property within this on model creating model method. So that is the benefit of on model creating. And also here you want to provide some data annotation for our property like unique primary testing, max length and identity, etc. So our DB context class is ready with us. So the next step is to access this sample DB context in our program. So let's move to our program.cs class, and here I am accessing that sample DB context and DB equal new sample DB context of. Then DB dot employees dot add of. You see, here expecting the new object of our employee class. Actually, this represents the table, and each object of employee is representing the row. So we have to add each row. Okay. So new employee. Okay. I will add it. First our ID. I will give it as 12. Then the next one is first name. I give it as Albert, something like that. Albert. Then the last name is then something like that. So I am copying it and pasting it. Okay, I change it as 13. Here I change it as will. Here I change it as then something like that. So in this case, we are adding the two rows in our tables. Employees represent the tables and each object represents the class. So it represents the rows. Then finally, you have to change this modification to actual database. For that purpose, you have to write db.save changes. At last, if you want to display the what are the rows in the employee table, you need to use for each loop. With the help of for each loop, we can display all the rows in our employees class. So we have to select our student. This is our variable in db.employees. This is our table. Okay. Then we have to write console.console. So again, a is there. It's not a problem. So take the quick action. You see, there's a namespace. This is system. So you have to console.writeLine. WriteLine is here. Then you have to student dot id. Similarly, we can add other things also. Then first name, then last name. As my friend Jesus said that the name of expression, I can use that name of student dot id here was equal to this will print our original property. That is the purpose of name of function. Yeah, okay. So we need to change the id here and copy here. And also I'm copying this one. That's also it is here. And also change it as last name. At last, we need to post that application we have to use console dot at the end. So once we create the model, everything is created. But in the case of Entity Framework 7, we have to do some migration in order to access this class and DB context. Why? Because in Entity Framework 6 or the earlier cases, we need to use some database initialization is there. But in the case of Entity Framework version 7, the migration is each and every time you will see the model, we have to use a new migration you have to use. So for that purpose, we have to do some migration. First of all, I will tell what is migration. The Entity Framework migration is to perform model updates throughout your entire application, and it will be let you modify your database after the model has changed with a simple steps. So first of all, we need to do the migration with the help of command prompt. Okay. So I have to take the command prompt here, start, and I will put the last mistake. The privilege and the problem is there. That's why I'm with command prompt with us class administrator. The command prompt is ready for us. Then first of all, I will check one command is there, dnvm. DNVM is actually as acquiring and managing the DNS. I guess it is not, actually it is not part of DNS. It is an administrative tool for DNS. And what is DNS is that? DNS is .NET execution environment. It supports some multiple platforms like Windows, OS, Linux, etc. And it also supports the various architecture like 32-bit and 64-bit. So first of all, we have to find whether the DNS is enabled or not. So you have to check with help of DNS. You see, the DNS is also enabled in our system. Okay. Then, next step is to change the directory where our project.json is residing. Then only you have to write a migration command. You see, this is our project.json file. So first of all, we have to access that directory. So open file folder. You see, this is our project.json file residing. So we have to copy this in your command prompt. So copying it. You see, open the command prompt and you change the directory. First of all, I change it to. Then we have changed the directory with the help of cd. Then paste it here. You see, our directory is changed. So in order to do the migration in Entity Framework server, first of all we have to change the directory where our project.json file is residing. Then only you can do the migration. Okay. So then we have to use before do the DNS or migration commands. We need to add some additional command there. That is dnu restore. DNU means it is the NUBit client for the DNS. This will restore the package from NUBit client. Okay, when you run this DNU restore, you will get all the package from the NUBit. So first of all, you have to run this command. You will see what happened here. You see the package from the NUBit will restore here, and it is right into the project.json file. The restore is completed successfully. This is the restoring. Once the restoring is happened, then you will write to start our migration command. First, I will start the migration command as dns space dot space ef space migration space art. We have to provide a suitable name for our migration. So, for our purpose, I adding initial migration. What is the EF indicating that? In the earlier case, I already told that. You see, there is a command in EF. You see, this is the command. This is the command is used in the control prompt. You in the case in the while doing the migration. So when you change it, you have to remember. When you change this name, you have to remember. You also change this name. Then only it will work. So in this case, we have to add the initial migration. Then I will, and also this R represents the new migration. In other words, we will update the database schema. Okay. Also, R command will update the database schema based on your what all are the changes you done on the model. That is the migration, initial migration. Okay, I will execute it. What will happen? Okay. You see, our initial migration is perfect. Initial migration in the sense what are the changes you done on your model, that is our initial migration. Okay. So the migration process is completed. But these changes are not made into our actual database. So we need to add this all the changes into your actual database, or you need to apply all the changes in your actual database. So we have to write another command also. DNX space dot ef space migration apply these migration changes to the actual database. Then we will see what will happen here. This is the time to this is already the initial migration is, that's where the problem is coming. There is no problem. I will remove it from here and do it again. There is a problem with the entity framework version 7. Once we have to do some, I already done this name before. That's why this problem is okay. That's not a problem. DNS dot. Each and every time we do the migration, we will give a separate name or unique name. That's the purpose. Okay. Patient. DNS.ef migration and new employee. This is the name of our migration. Okay. So then we will do the next one, DNS dot ef migration. Yeah. And these problems, we have to change this name also here. Sample DB. Yeah. Okay. This also remove here. Sometimes we use the same name, in the early cases as we use the name already. I use this name as already I use. That's why because this problem is arising. Dot ef migration and initial employee. Now, this is the name. DNS dot ef migration upgrade. Oh, sorry. There's a mistake from my side. Why? Because we have to use the same name repeatedly. Then we will show the error like that. The default sequence is already exists. Why? Because in the case of Unity Framework 7, each and every time when you change the model, each and every time the new migration is happened. So each and every time the same name is used here. That's the problem. But in the earlier cases, there is no problem with that. Why? Because drop and create initialization is there. With the help of that, we have to change our model. What happened is that at the beginning, all the database and the model that we are changing is deleted, and again it is newly created. But that no property is here. That's why the problem is arising. So we need to ensure that the name is given to one particular migration. That the name is not given to the next migration. Each time we will have each time you have provide so many migrations there. Once you have to change the model, you have to provide one name. The next time you will change the model again. Then you remember you have to give the next name. There is the unique name is here. That is the problem with this NP 7. Okay, so our migration process is completed. You see in the solution explorer, there is a migration folder is there. You see that? This is employee. So here we will change all the reference. When you change your got your model is changing, then we have to that changes will reflect on this migration track. If you changing this any one of the property from this employee class, like first name or last name or ID, anywhere you can change it, that again you will create another migration. You don't rely on this migration. That's why this type of error will occur. You see, this type of error will occur. There is already this object name before sequence. Okay, so we need to avoid that. We have to use the unique name. You must remember that. I have already the name, that's why this type of error will happen. Okay? So we have to run our program. So I will run it here. We will wait for a few time. It's loading. You see, there is a reference section shows some warning rules. Not a problem. You will right click and restore the package. The restoring is not here. Okay, then again you run it. You see the output like ID install. You see this is the name of expression. This will give the exact name what it is right on the employee class. Okay, ID is done, first name Albert, and last name Ben, and the next row is ID is 13 and first name Bill and the last name Bob. So this is our output of our program. So this is very easy to do the program with NDT Framework 7. And I understand all of you understood what is I am tell about the NDT Framework 7 and with C# 6.0. And that's all from my side. And I will hand over to Gupta. And
Thank you, Dhanashree. Now it's time for the question and answer sessions. We're ready to address your questions. Type in your question using the question feature. So we have a few questions coming. Our first question for the day is, when is the final release of Visual Studio 2015?
Yeah, I think it's the final release or celebrations of Visual Studio 2015 will start on July 25th. That means I think it is on this month.
Okay, I hope that has answered your question. Moving on to the next question, is database approach used in Entity Framework 7?
there is actually no. Actually, only corpus approach is used in NDT Framework 7.
So the next question for the day is, what is the purpose of database here?
Yeah, maybe it's in-memory database. In-memory database is only using for unit testing because in-memory is not depending actual database. So in this case, unit testing is very simple. So in Entity Framework 7, we are using the in-memory database for the unit testing.
Okay, so moving on to our next question, what is DNX?
DNS is actually a dotted execution environment. Yes, in the earlier cases we use CLR, but in NDT framework or in ASP.NET 5 we use dotted execution environment. Why? Because it supports the various multiple platforms like Windows, OS, Linux, and everything. And it's also supporting some architecture like 32-bit and 64. That's all about DNX.
Okay, guys, there is a question about if the recording would be available to us. Yes, the webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a follow-up mail with the link to view the recording of today's event. Um, actually, we are running short of time, so that's all the time we had. Please look for a follow-up mail that will alert you on the on-demand status of the webinar, so that you can review any material that you've missed, or you could simply go over again. Now, as we end, there has been a few questions coming in, and since we lack time, we will be answering them. We will be sending you a mail with an answer to all these questions. Apologies for not answering them as of now. Now, also any further queries that is there, we'll be taking them offline, and reach us at our social media, or you can simply drop us a mail. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. On behalf of Jitu, Dhanashree, and our team at Suyati Technologies, I'd like to thank you all for joining us and taking your time to attend our webinar. Have a great day, guys.